Conquering manhood. Command your legacy. Take action. And conquer all.
Welcome to the Conquering Manhood podcast, where we talk to today's conquerors, men and women who will mentor or inspire us to conquer all. Your journey is defined by you, but each week I bring you a unique featured conqueror who has an inspiring story or a life hack that we can try and emulate. Consider the show as your personal mastermind. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Jose Florencio, and today's featured conqueror is the #1 best-selling author of what is being widely regarded as one of the most life-changing books ever written, The Miracle Morning, the not-so-obvious secret guaranteed to transform your life before 8 a.m. Get this, The Miracle Morning has over 700 five-star reviews on Amazon. What's even more incredible is that our featured conqueror actually died at the age of 20. He was hit head-on by a drunk driver at 70 miles per hour, broke 11 bones, died for 6 minutes, and spent 6 days in a coma, only to wake up and face the news that he might never walk again. In this session, we talk about manifesting your dreams by channeling your energy into the outcome that you desire, how to put yourself at a peak level of physical and mental capacity so that you can start every morning feeling like a level 10 person, the best types of personal development practices, how debt can be worse than dying, habit mastery strategy, and how to become the person you want to be by developing yourself through the Miracle Morning. Conquering all and much more. Let's get into today's session. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to this week's contest giveaway and our sponsor, which is audiobooks.com. Go to audiobooks.com/conquer, where you can get a free 30-day subscription plus a credit towards any book of your choice. But this week, make sure and stay all the way to the end of this session so that you can hear about the contest giveaway. And thanks for being on here with us, and let's get started with the show. Hal, I got to tell you, I'm super excited to have you on because you're our first guest to be featured here on the list of conquerors on the Conquering Manhood podcast. And it couldn't be more fitting because after reading your book and writing down and journaling and visualizing, I wrote down and I told myself, I want to have Hal as my first guest.
Wow.
And even saying that just blows my mind. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man, I'm honored. That's cool, and that's powerful to see that you manifested it, you created it, you envisioned it, and then you created it. It's fantastic.
All right, Hal. Well, I've given the Conquering Nation a brief overview on the superhuman who is Hal Elrod, but can you tell us a mantra or a success quote that you use to command your life to drive yourself towards success?
Yeah, I mean the quote that gave birth to the Miracle Morning, which is not, it's my life's work now. Nothing I've ever put out in the world, has ever had an impact the way that the Miracle Morning has. And so the quote that launched that is from Jim Rohn, and he said, "Your level of success will seldom exceed your level of personal development, because success is something you attract by the person you become." And I think that, for me in that moment, I realized, and that was the time in my life, 2008, the U.S. economy had crashed. I went from being successful to losing my house, living on credit cards. I lost over half my income. I was in the worst shape of my life physically. I was really at a rock bottom when I heard that quote. And it made me realize I'm not dedicating time every day to my personal development to become the person that I need to be that can create the levels of success that I want in my life. And it was that epiphany. And I went, wow, I've got to create a really powerful, effective, if not, for me, it was, how do I go create the most effective, most, profound personal development routine known to man to turn my success around. And that was it, is I found that when I focused on not so much on what I did, but on who I became, if I could focus on becoming a better version of myself and becoming the person that could, easily create the success I wanted, that theoretically seemed like it made sense. And, I had no idea how fast it would happen, but 2 months after doing my morning ritual, which didn't have a name back then, it wasn't called the miracle morning. It was just my morning routine.
Right.
But less than 2 months later, I had almost tripled my income. I went from being in the worst shape of my life to training for a 52-mile ultra marathon, and I completed it months later. And I was depressed at that time because of my financial crisis, and that depression lifted not after 2 months, but day one. So it's like, because my life changed so fast, and that quote is really what gave birth to it, I started calling this my miracle morning because it felt like a miracle.
So what led up to that moment where you had this epiphany and this quote was so impactful into your life?
So it was really a 6-month downward spiral where, so I'll paint a picture. When 2008 started, this is a kind of where I was. I had been... Well, I had just hit Hall of Fame with my company previously, a couple years before, so kind of hit the pinnacle of success with that. And then I started my own businesses. I started professionally speaking, doing keynote speaking, which was a dream of mine for years. One of those things that, I didn't know how to do it. And I just like you said, man, I made a vision, wrote it down. I want to be a professional speaker. And, there's no school for that. You can't go to, college, get a degree, and then you get hired to be a professional speaker. It's kind of a entrepreneurial, thing.
Yeah.
And so anyway, at that time in my life, I had just living my dreams. I'd written my first book, Taking Life Head On, which had hit #1 on Amazon's, on the bestseller list in my category, #6 overall. It's like things were great. And then because of the financial success I was having, I bought my first house. I bought a brand new house, which was another dream. And then I bought my dream car at the time, which was an Infiniti G37 Sports Coupe, 6-speed, 300 horsepower, just rad car. And so I was living the dream. And then it seemed like it felt almost overnight. I mean, it was really like this 6-month downward spiral. But when the economy crashed, I'm an optimist. So I now say that there's a fine line between optimism and delusion, right? and I cross it often. But it's the idea that, people are going, oh, Hal, are you, do you watch the news? Are you hearing about the economy? And I'm like, I don't pay attention to that, negativity. I'm an optimist. I don't watch the news. So it's like, there's a difference between optimism and delusion. You're like, no. This is really happening. Like, you should pay attention to it and make adjustments in your business or your strategy to, according to the economy and the way that it's going. Well, I didn't pay attention. And I fell victim to it, like so many Americans, and kind of being in denial, if you will. And so over the 6 months, I went from being credit card debt free, where I was a big Dave Ramsey fan, no credit card debt, pay it off every month. And within 6 months, I had $53,000 in credit card debt.
Wow!
And so basically, I was charging almost $10,000 a month just to survive and pay for my business expenses, my personal expenses. Stopped paying the mortgage, lost the house, canceled the gym membership. So I'm at rock. Really, I'm literally physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, and spiritually, I'm at my lowest point in my life. And my wife, who we were just dating at that time, we're married now, but she said, "Sweetheart, I hate seeing you like this, but I don't know how to help you. I don't know what to do." She said, you have some really smart friends. Why don't you call John Berghoff? John's brilliant. He's a business genius. Why don't you call him and ask him for advice? And here the reason you might go, well, why did it take you 6 months to call somebody and ask for advice? See, I was a success coach, Jose, at that time. So if you could imagine the identity crisis, like I'm the one that helps people solve their problems. I got to be able to figure this out on my own.
Yeah,
and that was kind of my.
What are you going to look like? Asking for help, and you're a success coach.
Yeah. If you think about it, it's like what I kind of like to paint the scenario of. Hey, I'm failing miserably, and I really need some clients. Do you know anyone that needs a success coach who's failing miserably? Right. Like the only positive is, I can really relate to what they're going through because I'm going through it too. So long story short, I reach out to him and I ask him for advice, and I bare my soul, and I'm literally like trying not to cry when I'm telling him how bad things have gotten for me. And I've got my computer open. I'm ready for this, him to drop some knowledge on how to turn my business around and make some, create my income again. And his response, he goes, "Hal, I'm sorry to hear that. Are you exercising every day?" And I go, "What the hell does that have to do with anything I just told you?" I'm going, no, I'm not exercising. I canceled the gym membership. I'm in the worst shape of my life physically. I mean, I'm like, I'm out of shape, man. I'm a mess, but I don't need to be in shape right now. I need to make money.
Yeah.
And he said, and there's a lesson here for everybody. He said, Hal, look, you're a smart guy, but if you're not putting yourself in a peak physical and thus mental and emotional state every day, and then learning something that can improve your life or your business, he said, you're not going to turn your life around. You're going to stay stuck. Right? If you keep, it's like what Tony Robbins said, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, right? That's the definition of insanity. And it's like, he's like, you gotta start every day with some physical fitness. If I were you, he said, go for a run every morning, listen to a self-help audio, a business book, whatever, and then you put yourself in that peak state, and then think through for solutions to your problems, and then go home and apply what you're learning to your business and turn it around. And my response was, I was negative. I was like, dude, John, I hate running, man. Is there anything else I could do? And, he didn't skip a beat. He said, Hal, what do you hate worse, running or the life situation you just described to me, your life situation? And I was like, all right, screw you, man. I'll go for a run. And then the next morning I went for a run, like begrudgingly. I left the door, the front door of my house with my basketball shoes on. I wasn't a runner. And I was like, this is so stupid. Why am I running? I don't need to run. I need to make money. I need my business to succeed. This is such a waste of time. And it was probably 2 minutes into the run that I heard that quote from Jim Rohn that I mentioned earlier. And to kind of wrap up, kind of quick rapid fire the series of events that created the Miracle Morning, I had the epiphany that I've got to go home and create the most extraordinary personal development routine known to man so that I can invest time in my personal development to become, again, the person I need to be to create the success I want. And I ran home. I spent about an hour online just kind of researching, like, what are the best personal development practices in the world? What do the most successful people do every single day that the rest of the world doesn't do?
Right.
And I came with a list of 6 of the practices, and my first inclination was, okay, which of these 6 is the best? Like, meditation? I see all these successful people that swear by meditation. Fortune 500 CEOs that swear by meditation. But wait a minute, visualization. Some of these celebrities and these successful people swear by visualization, right? Wait, affirmations. Some of Will Smith says his affirmations are what created his multi-million-dollar, one of the most successful actors in Hollywood. But wait, Jim Rohn says that journaling is the most important thing to do every day. So I'm trying to figure out the best to do, and then it hits me. I go, wait a minute. What if I did all of these? Like, what if I did every single one of the best personal development practices every day? And that was kind of, they say like the rest is history, but I woke up the next morning, I went through all 6, and by 6 a.m., keep in mind, my life, my outer world, my life situation was a mess. I was $50,000 in credit card debt. My house was in the process of being taken back by the bank. I was in the worst shape of my life physically, and I was deeply depressed. But that morning, after 1 hour of what is now called the Miracle Morning, I felt like a level 10 person. And I thought, if I start every day feeling like this, with this much energy and clarity and motivation and the knowledge I just gained, it's only a matter of time before my outer world reflects my inner world. And to wrap up the story, it was less than 2 months, as I mentioned. I don't know if I said the results, but I almost tripled my income in less than 2 months. I didn't change careers. The clarity, the knowledge I gained, I applied it to my current business, and I just scaled it. I grew it. I almost tripled my income in less than 2 months. I went from being in the worst shape of my life to training for a 52-mile ultra marathon. I had never run more than a mile in my life. I started running, 20, 30 miles a week, and 6 months later or 5 months later, ran 52 miles in one day consecutively. And my depression went away that day. And I won't say it went away. It wasn't gone, but it went from being like an 8 or a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10 to like a 1 or a 2. And I kind of never looked back. I just kept growing. And every day I became a better version of who I had been the night before. And now you can say the rest is history, because now The Miracle Morning is one of the highest rated books on Amazon. I'm grateful to say we just had our 900th review at 4.7 out of 5 stars average. And the people, like what I just shared with you, you could have one of hundreds, if not thousands of people on your show that do The Miracle Morning, and they'd have a very similar success story as I did.
Absolutely, Hal. You mentioned that going out of debt, or that era in your life, that episode in your life, was the most challenging moment in your life.
Yeah.
But as I read in your book, you said that your book says that you actually died, broke some bones, Can you take us back to that and how? I've never died. So how is it that being in debt can be worse than dying? I mean, that just blows your mind.
Because you're right, and we went. I guess we went kind of out of order if we were, sequentially or chronologically. But I like going this route. Number one, because it's different than I normally tell my story, and I like this better.
That's cool.
It changes it up. So thank you. But so when I was the financial crisis I experienced in 2008, I was 20. How old was I? 27 years old, something along those lines, and the. I always say that in my life, like my two major rock bottoms were the second one was the financial crisis and losing my house and my depression and all of that. And the first was when I was 20 years old. I was hit head on by a drunk driver at 70 or 80 miles an hour, and I died for 6 minutes. I broke 11 bones. I was in a coma for 6 days and came out of the coma to be suffering permanent brain damage and be told by doctors I would never walk again. And I always say that my second rock bottom was actually more difficult than my first. And kind of like you, people look at me funny and they go, dude, you died.
Yeah, wow.
How do you get worse than dying for 6 minutes, right? And I ended up, what it was I've really kind of thought this through. And there's a few things. Number one, the car accident, it really was such a rock bottom. Like when I came out of my coma, like, dude, I couldn't get worse, right? I had died and I broke all these bones. And so time was only going to heal my brain and heal my body. So that's one component. And whereas if you compare that to 2008, I thought I was at rock bottom, when I lost a few clients and I, things went downhill, but then it got worse. And then it got worse, and then it got worse. It just kept getting progressively worse. Like every day and every week that went by, something else in my life got worse. And it's like, that's why it was just this downward spiral. Whereas, woke up from a coma, life only got better from there, right? 2008, economy crashes, it gets worse and worse and worse. And all of a sudden, now I'm losing the house, and now I'm in debt, and now my credit, I go from a 700 credit score to a 480 credit score. I mean, I lose, my credit's wiped out. That is huge, year, it was like 5 years before I turned that around. It was a 5-year sentence or whatever. So that's why it was so difficult. And then the last thing I'll share, and I've shared this on a few podcasts, but it was kind of a perfect storm that at the time I didn't realize it. When you're depressed, you don't really see things clearly. But I had been taking Adderall prescription Adderall for about 2 years. And when I started taking it, I took it off of a friend's advice who I really respect. And I didn't know any negative, side effects. And then I read someone sent me an article that knows me and goes, "Hey, Hal, man, have you seen our Adderall has some negative side effects?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't know that." I did some research and I was like, "Holy cow, this could be messing up my brain," and I didn't know that. So as soon as I found that out, I threw away my supply of Adderall and I stopped taking it. Well, to go from, it's a pretty heavy-duty narcotic, right? It's a significant drug. To go from taking 20 milligrams or 30 a day to 0, I didn't realize this, but I was going through some hardcore withdrawals. So it was kind of the perfect storm of when my life started to crash and my business started to fail, I simultaneously stopped taking this prescription drug. And so I'm going through these horrible withdrawals, which are causing deep, deep depression, which I don't know that that's the cause, while my life and business are falling apart. So kind of that perfect storm. So to go back to the accident and how I overcame that. I came out of the coma, told I would never walk again, permanent brain damage. I had almost no short-term memory. And what I did, I told my parents, I said, "Look, Mom and Dad, the doctors might be experts in medicine, but they're not experts in me. And I know they say I'm probably never going to walk again. But the way that I see it, there's only one of two possible outcomes. And I'm ready for either." And Jose, see, the thing is, my parents were really distraught over this. And I now that I'm a dad, I can imagine it. It's like, back then I didn't get what it was like. I thought I was going through this experience, but really my mom and dad were having to see their son, go being told he's never going to walk again and potentially have his whole future maybe ruined, altered. And so I said, "Look, Mom and Dad, I was trying to. It's so funny. I'm in this car accident. I'm in a hospital bed with 11 broken bones. I've got a metal rod in my leg, 2 screws in my elbow, a rod in my arm, 3 plates in my eye. I've got, I'm in my arms in a sling, my legs in a sling. I'm bandaged. My ear had been almost completely severed. It's sewn on. I've got, my head is shaved because the top of my skull was sliced open. I've got a ruptured spleen, a punctured lung. It's only 2 weeks after the accident, and I told my parents. I'm trying to comfort them. I'm like, you guys, it's okay. Don't be so upset. And I said, there's only one of 2 possibilities. And I think there's a lesson for anyone listening in kind of this perspective. I said, number one, the doctors, they might be right. And I never walk again. And I've already decided that if I'm in a wheelchair the rest of my life, I will be the happiest person you've ever seen in a wheelchair. Because I can't change what I can't change, but I can choose my experience of life.
Wow.
And I think that's for anybody listening. What's your wheelchair? What's the circumstance that you're in that's out of your control at the moment? Or maybe it's something that you were born with, or maybe it's something in your past that you're still hanging on to. It's this emotional baggage you're carrying where you can't change it. You can't go back in time and change it. But or maybe it's something that you can change, but not in an instant. It's a circumstance that's going to take you a while to rebuild. Like when I was in my financial crisis, I couldn't snap my fingers and change it. I had to take some actions, and it would take a while. So what's your wheelchair that you might be going through it, or it might be something that happened to you, but we can always be the happiest person we've ever been going through the most difficult time in our lives. That's always our choice. You can either be miserable in a wheelchair or you can be happy. Either way, you're in a wheelchair. You can be miserable going through any circumstance or difficulty in your life, or you can be the happiest person ever going through the most difficult time in your life. And I said, Mom and Dad, so that's number one. I said, worst case scenario, I'm going to be happy in a wheelchair. That's it. Number 2, though, the second possible outcome, I told my mom and dad, I said, I will walk again. And I said, that's where my energy is going. I've already, I spent an hour or 2 or a few days accepting the worst case scenario and deciding I'd make the best of it. But that's not where my energy is going. I said, I'm not worrying about the wheelchair or thinking about never walking again or all my energy goes into possibility number 2. I will walk again. I'm dwelling on that every day. I'm thinking of that every day. I'm praying about it. I'm visualizing it. And that's the thing for all of us. Our energy can either go into what we don't want, what we're afraid of, what we can be complaining, or we can accept everything that we can't change, everything out of our control, and put 100% of our energy into what we want, what that's going to look like, what we need to do to make it happen. I was thinking of therapy every day. I was going to therapy, and I don't think it's a coincidence to wrap the story up here, but it was about a week after the conversation with my mom and dad, when I told them that I had accepted the worst case scenario, but I was visualizing the best, the doctors came in, Jose, with routine x-rays, and they said, we don't know how to explain this, but your body is healing at this incredible rate, and we're going to let you take your first step tomorrow, or at least attempt it in therapy. So it went from never walking again to 3 weeks after the crash, I took my first step. And 4 weeks later, I left the hospital. A week after that, against doctor's orders, I finished number 6 in a 2-week sales contest amongst 500 sales reps, with my mom and dad driving me to my appointments because of the brain damage. I couldn't drive. And then that year, I finished as the number 6 rep out of 50,000 sales reps in the company. And I started the year in the hospital, and I finished the year at number 6 in the company. And I don't say that to brag or look at me. I say it because I think that it's evidence of what's possible for all of us. That we can always use our adversity as an excuse, or we can use it as fuel to inspire us to go, you know what? I'm going to overcome this. I'm going to take this challenge and use it not as an excuse to settle for mediocrity, but as fuel to create an extraordinary story of maybe overcoming adversity on my way to achieving everything that I want to achieve.
I like that. It's like use your pain as fuel and go out there and create the life that you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Hal. So also in your book, you mentioned how adapting the miracle morning and the steps associated with it. You say that you can step out of mediocrity and create a level 10 life in any aspect of your life, health, wealth, relationship. But my question to you, Hal, is what's your perspective on achieving a level 10 life in every aspect of your life? Do you think we as individuals can actually conquer everything?
Yes. That for me, that's my objective every day. That for me, I don't want to be, I just, to me, it's not success unless you're succeeding in the areas that matter. Most of which, we'll start with finances, right? You want to be in a place where you have financial freedom to do what you want, when you want. And also that includes contributing at the level you want. I really believe in, some people might, I don't know, disagree with this or even be offended by it. But I really, my personal belief, and I don't know, impart it on anybody else, but is that I have a responsibility to achieve extraordinary financial success so that I can contribute to other people that don't have the same opportunities that I have. Maybe they're in countries where they don't have the freedom that I have, or maybe they were born without, with certain limitations, or born into poverty or into a family that created a lot of limitations for them. Well, whatever it may be. For me, I feel like we all have a responsibility to achieve our full potential so that we can inspire and empower other people to do the same. So not just financially, that's one component, but in every area of our lives. Let's take physical fitness. There's another area that I really focus on. I try to eat as healthy as possible, like 90% of the time. Then occasionally I'll have pizza or something. But most of the time it's really, really healthy. And here's the thing. That's not just about me. See, the way you live your life isn't just about you. It's about how every person that you ever meet, because every person that you meet or that you have a relationship with, you are influencing them without even realizing it. The way that we live our lives unconsciously gives other people permission to do the same. So if you eat unhealthy food, guess what? You're not just hurting your body, you're doing a disservice to the people that you love and care about. Because they're going to be like, oh, you're eating unhealthy? Well, then I guess it's okay for me to eat unhealthy, right? If you settle for mediocrity in any area of your life, you are giving permission to the other people in your life that you care about, permission to settle for mediocrity in their own lives. So to me, I don't view our lives as just about us. They're about the greater good. And I think when we see it that way, it helps us to realize, man, I don't feel like doing this thing right now for me. But you know what? I'm going to do it for my brother, for my sister, for my friend, for my mom, for my dad, for my daughter. I'm going to do it to set the example for what's possible for them. Yeah. And I try to live my life where I have a responsibility not just to myself, but to every human being that will ever, hear this podcast or get to know me or especially the people that are the closest to me.
I'll tell you how. What was really resonated with me within the book is I've already kind of lived this way. I'm a Marine. I'm a Marine, and I've been a Marine for about 16 years this July. So waking up early, obviously, has been something that I have to do out of obligation. But what resonated with me with the book, and it's something that I really admire about you, was every time that you needed to learn something or do something, you went out for a resource and you picked out books. And that's something that I've implemented in my own life. And because I want to establish or conquer all aspects of a conquering man, these 5 pillars of health, wealth, relationship, and personal growth, I read a book or a portion of a book every single day in those areas. And that really resonated with me. But then where your book really helped me out was the habit mastery strategy and how you broke that down into those different phases. And I think really made it clear and really changed my mind and made it attainable. And I think that, it's amazing. And I want to share that with the Conquering Nation. And could you go a little bit into those 3 phases?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we all, I think all of us know, or anyone who studies personal growth or personal development knows that our habits really create our lives. And that if you master your habits, you master your life. Because, if somebody is in really good, let's say you look at someone and they take their shirt off and they're physically, peaked, really fit. Six-pack abs, right? Yeah. You know that they've got habits of exercising, period, right? If you make exercising a habit, depending on the type of exercise, right, that's going to produce a result for you. Yeah. When I was in sales, I realized the most important habit I had was to make 20 to 40 sales calls every single day. 20 was my floor. That was my minimum. And when I realized that that was the habit that I needed to produce, and then the results would take care of themselves. I just committed to make 20 calls a day, 5 days a week, and that year I doubled my sales. I had the best sales year ever. And it was actually interesting that my stress level was really down, because normally most human beings we're very focused on the results, and we get emotionally attached to our results. So, right, meaning you have good results, you feel good; bad results, you feel bad. And you get discouraged, then you give up and you stop trying. And what I realize is that the secret to success is to identify the process to achieving the results, and you could call the process a habit, right? Or make the process a habit. And then if you do that, the results take care of themselves, and you don't have to stress over good results and bad results, because some days you have good days, some days you have bad days. But if you take your focus off the result and keep it on the process and go, okay, I know that statistically, if I do X process X days a week times, this long, that over the course of 6 months or 12 months, then on average, I will achieve this result. Then you now can take off the pressure of worrying about having a good day or a bad day and go, I'm just going to commit to the process and make that a habit. And by doing that, I know that by default, I'll achieve the result. Now, maybe you have to increase it a little bit or tweak it here or there, but for the most part, it just happens automatically when you know your numbers, right? Go to the gym 30 minutes a day, right? Eat right, those habits in place, boom, you start losing weight, you start getting in shape. So that's kind of the setting the context for what the habit strategy that you want me to teach here. So I've done a lot of research. I'm a coach, and I run not only private coaching, but I do group coaching in addition to my speaking. So I have 200 and a little over 200 group coaching members. So I'm always coming up with new topics for my coaching group. And then now I run a podcast too. So now it's really challenging. Like, okay, geez, there's only so much content. I got to write an article. I got to do a podcast. I got to do a coaching call. But the point is, I've done a lot of research on habit creation and implementation and sustaining habits, because it's such an important topic for coaching. For working with people on achieving success. So of everything I've studied and learned in the Miracle Morning book, right, as you alluded to, I broke it down to what I believe is the most effective strategy for habit implementation, creation, and sustaining those habits. Now, I'm not saying it's the only one. I'm not saying you couldn't use another one that works. This is what has worked for me and hundreds of my clients. And there's 3 10-day phases. So the first 10 days is what I call the unbearable phase, right? Days 1 through 10, unbearable. Days 11 through 20, uncomfortable. And days 21 through 30 is what I call unstoppable. So unbearable, uncomfortable, unstoppable. And when you understand how the process of implementing a new habit feels and these 3 phases, now you have a strategy. You're prepared for what's to come, and therefore you can endure the challenging aspects and stick with it until you hit the unbearable phase. So unbearable. I'm sorry, the unstoppable phase. The unbearable phase, days 1 through 10. Think about any new habit you want to implement. Let's say waking up early, since we're talking about, my book is The Miracle Morning. This is obviously a habit that if you're not a morning person, you'd learn in the book how to implement specifically how do you beat the snooze button. Right. So day 1, alarm goes off. Now, maybe you're excited for the first few days. I will say there's kind of this anomaly where the first few days often don't feel unbearable because you're in what I call the infatuation stage. You're like, oh my God, this is new. It's fun. It's cool. However, as soon as the infatuation stage kind of wears off and you're like, yeah, I'm not infatuated anymore. I'm used to it. It becomes unbearable where you wake up and you say things like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I can't believe I have to wake up right now. When I was learning to run, I hated running. I'm like, oh, I hate it. Every bone and everything aches in my body. I'm so bored. Running's so boring. I hate it. That's how the first 10 days feel of most new habits, unbearable. The second 10 days are uncomfortable. And by the way, it's not an exact science for you. You might go from unbearable to uncomfortable on day 8, or it might take you till day 14. It just depends. But these are, by the way, these are averages. I also believe so much in us creating our own reality that if you believe and you decide that the first 10 days will be unbearable, but then it will get uncomfortable, and then you can create that reality and you can create the time frame. I believe that very strongly.
Yeah, this is true.
So days 1 through 10. So then days 11 through 20, it's not horrible anymore. You don't hate it, but you don't love it yet. You don't enjoy it. You're kind of going, it's not as hard as it was, but I'm really not having fun. I'm really not enjoying it. I'd still rather be, doing the old thing I used to do. But somewhere between day 21 and day 30, you hit what I call unstoppable. And here's what that looks like. It's kind of where you wake up, you don't even hit the snooze button, you jump out of bed. And then you look back and realize, holy crap, it wasn't hard to get out of bed today. I just did it. And all of a sudden you have this new identity. You're like, wow, I think I'm a morning person now, right? Like when I was training for running, hated the first 10 days, didn't enjoy the second 10 days. Somewhere for me around day 22, 23, I woke up in the morning, went over to the closet, grabbed my running shoes, laced them up, headed out the front door without any resistance. And that's really what it means, because when you're not resisting the new habit anymore, when it's not difficult for you anymore, that's when you've become unstoppable. Because, Jose, let me ask you an obvious question. Is it hard to do something that you now enjoy doing?
No, absolutely not.
No, it's
right.
Yeah, it's easy. It becomes like automatic, right? So that's it. And I really found, and I mean, it's now tested on thousands of people that are doing the Miracle Morning every day, and the feedback is that really works. And if you go into it, see, most people, let me wrap up this lesson with an important component to understand. Why do people fail at implementing or changing habits or implementing new habits? And most people think about New Year's resolutions. New Year's resolutions is nothing more than a new habit that you want to implement. And, the statistics I'm going to butcher the statistics, but it's something like, by the first week, 50% of people have already thrown in the towel and given up on their new habit. By the end of week 2, it's like 70%. By the end of week 3, it's like 80%, and it's something like that. And by the end of week 4, less than 10% are actually, I think it's like 3% or 5% are sticking with their new habit.
5%, yeah.
Right, yeah. So now why is that? Well, if you don't have these 3 phases, if you're not aware of these, well, then on day 3 or 4 or 7 or whatever it is for people, they go, man, I gave it 7 days. I still hate it. I guess it's just not for me. I guess I'm just not an early riser. I guess I'm just not a runner. And they throw in the towel before they actually get to day 22, 23, where they actually enjoy the new habit. So most people, they're not aware. But now that you have this awareness, here's another question for you, Jose. Can you do anything for 10 days, even if it's difficult, if you know it's going to change your life forever?
Yes.
Yeah. So once you're aware, okay, I know the first 10 days are going to be unbearable. They're going to suck. And I know the second 10 days aren't going to be a picnic either. But I'm committed to do 30 full days because I know by the end of the 30 days, I'll have a new habit in my arsenal for success, and I'll never be the same in a very positive way. I'll be a better version. And for me, I try to live my life in 30-day challenges, and I encourage people to do that, where every 30 days, implement one new habit. I encourage the listeners, start with early rising, right? And set your alarm. My challenge is set your alarm for 30 to 60 minutes earlier than it is now. Wake up not because you have to get up, but because you want to get up, because you want to spend those 30 to 60 minutes becoming the person that you need to be to achieve level 10 success in every single area of your life. And you don't need to master the lifesavers. Don't wait for the book to show up in the mail. Just wake up 30 to 60 minutes earlier and spend half that time reading and half that time exercising. That's it. Get your heart rate up. Get the blood flowing. Learn something new. Like my first Miracle Morning, right? I ran out the door, listened to a self-help audio, and that changed my entire life. So that's my encouragement, and that's my challenge to people, is just start easy. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Have the discipline to get out of bed, and then dedicate that time to a little bit of personal development. And then, if you want to dedicate that time, you can read the Miracle Morning if you want. That can become how you start your Miracle Morning, just reading the book. Then you can develop and master the practices that the Miracle Morning entails.
I'll caveat off of that, and I'll say, when I used to be a drill instructor for recruit training so that, regular civilians can become Marines, every cycle, the first 10 days were the days where most of these kids were either trying to kill themselves, trying to quit, trying to give up. And after those 10 days, it's just like something clicked in them. And They were just like, this sucks, but the person to the left and right of me are doing it, and so I'm going to continue going. You're right.
I love that. I never heard that example or thought of it, but that's a great example, right? You go through boot camp, dude, it's hell, right? I mean, I haven't been through it, but I can only imagine it's horrible, right? But eventually you're like, dude, I'm a Marine, right? Like I said, what happens is your identity catches up. Through that 30-day phase, you go from being, I could never be a morning person, to day 22, 23, maybe 15 for you, whatever it is. Dude, I'm a morning person, right? I went from, I could never be a runner. I hate running, to I'm going to run a 52-mile ultra marathon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I will say this, by the way. I want to invite everybody listening, because you mentioned something about looking to your left and right and going, dude, that guy's doing it, that guy's doing it. I can do it too. One of the most powerful support kind of aspects of the Miracle Morning is we have a community on Facebook that has grown to be the most, I don't even know how to explain it, the most engaged, supportive, positive online community I've ever seen. It's called the Miracle Morning Community on Facebook, and you can search for it and ask to join, and my admin will accept you. We have over 14,000 people in that community now from around the world, and I see people come in they're brand new, no one knows them, and they'll ask a question in the group on their first day. Hey, I'm new here, and I need help in this area or whatever. And I mean, it's common. By the end of the day, they have 50, 60, 70 comments from people in our community giving them thoughtful advice or encouragement. You don't see that. I mean, if I post on my own Facebook page, I don't have 5 or 6 of my friends. I'm lucky if they're giving me thoughtful advice and encouragement, let alone in a community where you've just joined and have So I invite everybody, before you even do the Miracle Morning, join the community on Facebook and just start reading some of the success stories, and you'll see. I mean, it's pretty inspiring.
It takes a community, and we'll make sure to link that to the show notes. Hal, we're going to jump into the Man Up round, but before we do, let's thank today's sponsors. Audiobooks wants to tell you a story, and they have over 60,000 books in audio format. Make your next book one that will aid you on your journey of conquering manhood. Go to audiobooks.com/conquer for a free 30-day subscription plus a credit towards any book of your choice. If you need web hosting, I recommend InMotionHosting.com. If you want a 38% off your web hosting plan plus a free domain name, check out conquermanhood.com/hosting to get that deal plus some bonus material from me. Now, back to the show. What is your proudest man moment?
My proudest man moment was I got out of the hospital from my car accident. I was in there for 7 weeks, and the day before I got out, I called my best friend Jeremy. I said, "Hey man, I'm getting out of the hospital. Tomorrow. I'm excited." And we were getting off the phone, and he and I met in our company. We both were 2 of the top salespeople for this company, and he said, "I got to go. I've got to make sales calls, Hal." And he said, we have a push period starting tomorrow, a 2-week, which was like a 2-week sales contest that I held the record for. I had broken the all-time record for that, so it was kind of my thing. Like I would show up, really it got my competitive juices flowing. So anyway, to keep what really is a long story short. I asked my parents and the doctors, I was like, hey, could I sell for push period? Now keep in mind, my left hand didn't work. I could barely walk. I was in a wheelchair. And I was like, I want to go sell, some Cutco kitchen knives, and I want to compete. I want to, finish in at least the top 10, if not win the push period. And the doctor said, absolutely not. My parents said, absolutely not. And with only 4 days left in this 2-week push period, I begged my dad. I'm like, Dad, I need this to get back on the horse and back to my normal life. I need this to gain my confidence back. Please, please, please. If I set up some appointments over the phone, drive me to my appointments, because I couldn't drive. And he drove me to appointments. He finally caved. 4 days left in this 14-day sales contest that I don't even know, probably 1,000 sales reps were competing over this 14-day period. And in the last 4 days, I sold $7,000 of kitchen knives. And I went to the conference, and out of the 500 sales reps there, I took 4th place. Wow. And they were working for 2 weeks. I was working for 4 days, and I'm limping on stage with a 4-prong cane, and that was I cried. The audience cried. It was really the proudest moment of my life, because it was probably the hardest thing I ever did, was just mustering up the motivation, the energy to go out there and make it happen.
Awesome. All right, Hal, do you have a product or a services that a man must have that you like to share with our listeners?
Ooh, cool question. The Miracle Morning, there's nothing, like I said, I've ever shared with the world other than the Miracle Morning. And you can buy the book on Amazon if you're tight strapped for cash right now and you're like, I don't have the extra money to buy the book. You can go to miraclemorning.com. Miraclemorning.com is where you get the first couple chapters for free, a 15-minute training video for free, and a 60-minute audio. So it's kind of a way to start with the Miracle Morning without having to invest a penny of your money. And then if you decide you want to buy the book on Amazon. That's fine too. And then last thing I'll share is I have my first live event last year we did called Best Year Ever Blueprint, which was just incredible. I mean, we had 220 people there. It was in San Diego. We're doing it again this year. We already have 130 people registered for this year's event. And this time last year, it was just an idea. So pretty excited for it. If you go to bestyeareverblueprint.com, so I guess I don't mean to I'm a salesperson by heart. So there's two products. There's an event and then the book.
All right, Hal. So we'll wrap it up here with what is your definition of a conquering man?
A conquering man is a man, I believe, who wakes up every day and strives to fulfill his potential in every area possible. And that doesn't mean every day you can focus on every area, but in general, it's someone who, kind of mentioning what I mentioned earlier, they take responsibility for not only their own success and their own physical, mental, emotional, financial, spiritual well-being, but they realize that how they show up in the world is setting an example for everyone else. And so I think that's a real man is somebody who steps up, does what's right, lives to his full potential so that he can inspire and empower other people to do the same.
Beautiful. Love it, love it, love it. Hal, I want to publicly thank you, Hal, for coming to the show, for giving these knowledge bombs to the Conquering Nation. If you want to leave us with a final parting words, and then we'll say goodbye.
Final parting words, love the life you have while you create the life of your dreams. I think that so often most people don't really wake up every day and really love their lives and love themselves. They're kind of waiting. They're in this state of like, well, once, like as a kid, you're like, once I get to high school, I'll be happy. And then you get into high school and you get, if you're like me, you're getting picked on and, bullied and you're like, this sucks. I want to go to college, and then once I leave the house, I'll be happy. And then you leave the house and college is hard and you're financially struggling. We go through like this, like our whole lives is once this happens, then I'll be able to be happy. And we see it with so many celebrities that they're living the life of their dreams, and many of them are unhappy. They're, turning to drugs and alcohol and partying, and some of them commit suicide, even though they have everything they ever wanted because they never learned how to love the life they had along their journey. So don't wait for that. Don't wait to love your life. Love it as it is, not because it's perfect, but because it's perfect in its imperfection. Wake up every day, truly be grateful for everything you have, accepting of everything that you don't, and actively creating everything you want because you deserve nothing less.
Hal, we started this show with gratitude and we're ending it with gratitude. Conquer Nation, go and follow my man Hal Elrod on both Facebook and Twitter. Request permission to join his Facebook community. But of the utmost importance, go purchase the Miracle Morning book. This is an absolute game changer, no matter the focus in life that you have. Wake up in the morning with some intentionality. Wake up to put into practice the morning routines outlined by Hal and watch the miracle take place in your life too. Thank you for listening to the Conquer Manhood podcast. If this is your first time with us, please subscribe, rate and review the show so we can get the show exposed to more future conquerors like yourself. Now, for the Conquer Manhood Big 8 giveaway, the biggest and manliest contest giveaway ever conducted. Each week during the first 8 weeks of the podcast, I will be doing a random giveaway to some of my favorite manly brands and services. This week's for session 001, 2, and 3, the giveaway is conducted and brought to you by audiobooks.com. They have over 60,000 books in audio format, and it's my preferred audio book service provider to listen to while I'm on the go, going to the gym, whatever. But for this week's giveaway, brought to you by Conquer Manhood and Audiobooks, I'm giving away a free 3-month subscription plus 3 credits to redeem towards any book of your choice. I recommend Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, powerful book. To enter to win, make sure to head to this session's show notes at conqueringmanhood.com/002. That's for session 002. Where everything we talked about today with Hal will be highlighted, and I'll also link to everything that I want to share there with you. The link to enter into the giveaway each week is titled Big 8 Giveaway. Make sure and check that out to learn how to enter and win the contest. Hal, thank you so much for being our featured conqueror, being the first guest here at Conquer Manhood Podcast. The Conquer Manhood community, the Conquer Nation salutes you, and to you, my man, I say conquer all.
Jose, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being a leader and leading the way. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I'll talk to you next time.
Today's featured conqueror was the New York Times bestselling author, Hal Elrod. Session 002 is a wrap. Next week, we talk to the #1 relationship coach, Tony Gaskins. So make sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss out on that. Also, make sure to enter the Big 8 giveaway for your chance to win the audiobooks, 3-month subscription, or the future contest to come. Go to conquerormanhood.com/002. That's for this show's sessions, show notes, where I detail everything we talked about today and also how to enter the Big 8 giveaway. Conquer Nation, until next time, conquer all.
Thank you for listening to Conquering Manhood. Now, it is time for you to conquer all. So take action. Head to conqueringmanhood.com and grab the 4 steps to conquering manhood, the ultimate guide, for free.